Welcome to Craig Back Show.
Hey, welcome to the Katie Black Show. This is an exciting episode. This is my season premiere of my 6th season. I'm with Todd Johnson. What's up, Todd?
What's going on? How you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing great.
So, as I always tell my guests, 18 different directions we could go.
Okay.
But I want to start off with Charlotte.
Okay.
So, how long have you been here?
I've been here 7 or 8 years. I don't know. I feel like I lost a year last year, so it's like everything's run together. So I think it's 8. I think it's been about 8 years. I'm from North Carolina kid, so I've kind of lived in a few stints in a couple other places, but like long-term Charlotte, ever since I've been here, just kind of been mainly where I've been at.
So what do you think of Charlotte? What's your vibe?
I love it. I really love it. I think it is trying to, and I think it's getting there now as far as personality.
Mm-hmm.
I think that there was a big problem of like trying so hard to be like, we could be the next Atlanta, we could be the next Nashville, we could be the next, and just trying to be another city, and kind of almost talk about it in that way. And it should just be like, instead of saying, oh, we could be that, like, we're already cool. We're, you know what I mean?
Accept us, love us.
Yeah. Like there is a scene in this town. There is cool stuff to go do. Like, don't be like, I wish this town was like, it already is,
Right.
So I think it's getting better with it. I think it still has a little bit of like an identity crisis.
Yeah.
But I think it's there. It's culture. There's stuff here. Tons of fun stuff to do here. It's not just a banking city.
No, I agree. I agree. Every time I ask people about Charlotte, though, like then I think in my own mind about what I think of Charlotte, and I don't know. I think with anything that, like, especially
like, you don't
if this
like
is
it,
your
or you
home.
don't
No, it's not that I don't like it. I love it. It's like where I grew up, but I think it's hard for me to assess when I'm like in the thick of it and have like compare it to like what it was and like what it's becoming,
right?
And
Gotcha.
the fact that like I can't keep up, but no one really can.
Yeah. No, and it's also changing so quick to the point where it might be a problem, because I mean it is growing so fast, whatever. Too, so, you know what I mean. So it is kind of weird, but yeah, I could imagine like growing up here, it doesn't feel like it. I mean, do you feel like it feels massively different from when you were a kid?
Totally, but then also, I'm still kind of like at ground zero, like where like me and my family are like super weirdly tight, and like my parents are still in the same neighborhood that I grew up in, so I still visually see the location, but yeah, everything is so different.
Yeah.
Everything is so different. Yeah.
It's it is weird and interesting with.
But I love it. I mean, I'd rather it like grow and try to get a vibe, even if the city doesn't know what the vibe is.
For sure.
Than just stay like stagnant.
For sure.
And vanilla, which is the most boring ice cream.
I love vanilla ice cream.
But with fudge.
No, I just straight up vanilla. Okay. I know it's
sorry.
It's like no, you can do fudge. You can do whatever you want with it. It's like, but What's
your favorite? Do you have a favorite, like Ben & Jerry's vanilla, Baskin Robbins?
Not really. I'm not a massive ice cream guy, I realize.
Okay.
I will start now occasionally if I'm walking by like the frozen ice cream and I'll see a flavor of something that's a Ben & Jerry's. Like I don't know why I'll do it, but like I'll get something and then that night just like destroy that pint and go like, ice cream is awesome. It's like I feel like I've weirdly been sleeping on ice cream, and then like every couple months or something I'll just grab it occasionally and just like go, this is the best.
This is my jam.
This is my jam right here. I could do this all the time, and then I'll forget to get it again. Like a Reese's peanut butter cup style thing. Oh man.
Yeah, I have an ice cream problem, but I've had to step away.
Oh, okay. So for you, ice cream is serious.
It's serious business.
Okay.
But it's weird because then, like, I feel like I broke up with ice cream, like, when I went to college.
Okay.
And then I got back together with it.
You got back with your ex and just
yeah.
So like late night text you up.
Yeah, and I couldn't say no. I couldn't say no. So yeah, it's just interesting. Yeah, again, like I analyze my ice cream relationship, but
okay.
I got back with it like circa like 2015.
It's been a rocky road.
Yeah, no pun intended. That's too funny. But do you like Jenny's?
Jenny, I still haven't been to Jenny's. See, that's where I need to go do
Experience
that. Yeah, I really need to go and experience that because I know that's like a masterful thing and state. Yeah. I will eat. My problem is like chips and salsa or chips and dips
guac.
or guac. Yeah, guacamole. I could eat that all day. Salsa or just like cheese sauce or anything. Like I will chips and dip of any sort is my.
I feel you. Okay.
Like that's what I always gravitate
That's
towards.
your vibe. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Not as much like sweets and stuff, but yeah.
I got you. Yeah, I have found that people are like either or.
Yeah. Yeah, either kind of like a sweets or like a salty thing. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, for me it's always like chips.
Yeah, now I'm thinking about Mexican. Okay. So, your friend group here in Charlotte, do you feel that like you guys are all transplants, or do you feel like there are people from Charlotte that you know?
It's mostly transplants, but there's still a couple natives for sure. You know that I know. My friend group is like, it's kind of interesting. It's like comes a lot from just meeting other musicians and knowing other musicians, and so that's mostly kind of what my friend group is that kind of thing. And then it's I'm fortunate now that it's grown from that a little bit in the past couple years. Glad that I've kind of reached out beyond just always hanging out with musicians. So I mean, there's a couple, but yeah, it's mostly transplants. I mean, just about anyone. It's like a typical like, it's like you almost know when you start talking to somebody to ask them, well, where are you really from? You know,
Right,
it's weird.
So, if I was like a fly on the wall,
Mm-hmm.
like what do a group of friend musicians, what do y'all talk about?
So, well, the kind of interesting thing is usually it's just like in between shows. Like some of these people, this is one of the reasons I really like doing the podcast when I started it, is like some of these people I've known for years and played with and stuff, but it's still like work. Like we meet up at the show, we say, how are you doing?
Mm-hmm.
And kind of hang out. So, you know, a lot of times we don't really get to hang out too much, but when we do, you know, usually it's just talking about what gigs we're doing, like, you know, or it's somebody always has a like, you will not believe the shit that happened on this gig this weekend kind of story, you know, and so we'll talk about stories of that and just kind of like, you know, set up in other places and, you know, how do you get into this spot, you know, just kind of those sort of things usually with like the gigging musicians and stuff like that. And then just kind of with anybody else of just music, talk about, you know, singers or what's out or, you know, things like that. So it's still kind of the, you know, it can get nerdy or it can get
Just basic.
You know what I mean? But
So, do you guys feel like,
we will make fun of places that we hate to play.
and is
For
that
sure.
because of the owners or the crowd that goes there?
It could be either. If it's like a bad spot. And it's not, and I'm not saying that about like everywhere.
Yeah, no, of
You know,
course.
there's a couple places, you know, where like, so if the owners or management, it is weird or something, that's always kind of like you kind of got to take it, kind of is what it is. For me, like crowds, and this is something I still have to work on this. I will get a little more upset with the crowd because in a way it's almost like a challenge for me. Like I'm like, okay, I'm gonna win them over. I'm gonna get them, you know. And then I need to be better about like, I'm playing at a patio on a Wednesday, you know, at 5 p.m. Like these people, like they're just as surprised to see me too. You know, like they were like, dude, we just, you know what I mean? Like they're just like, dude, we just want to go get some tacos, and you're standing here in the corner, you know. But to me, I still go like, all right, well, I need to do like, I'm gonna.
When you say like I need to get them, what does that mean? I need them to like really.
I need to get them on my side. I still want to entertain. I want them to enjoy the fact they have the experience that I'm there, you know? Because to me, it's like, it doesn't make any sense for me to be there other than to perform or play songs or, you know, be an entertainer, make sure people have fun, you know? And so sometimes I need to check myself and just being like, oh, I'm a little more background music. This is like, it's okay that I'm here, but it's not the, you know, some gigs are like, I call them, you're like a painting. It's like someone walks in the room and goes, oh, that's neat. And then they never pay attention to it for the rest of the time they're there.
Okay.
And it kind of feels that way. And then there are tons of shows where that doesn't happen. You know, like the crowd's awesome and they're into it. Even if it is like, you know, a patio kind of gig, you know, they're engaged. You can tell that they're paying attention, but they're still able to hang out with their friends and talk, you know. And that always feels good if I'm doing like a solo patio gig kind of thing in town.
Very cool. So if you had to say, like, what's an average, like, Charlotte crowd like that's filling the vibe?
It depends on what neighborhood you're in.
Valid.
It really depends on what neighborhood you're in. South End, I'm like, it's not gonna, no one's gonna care. You know, unless you're like late night at the gin mill kind of thing. You know, if it's like people are like, yes, we're gonna pay attention, then South End people will go ham. You know, but I like playing in Nodon Plaza. I think people are appreciative. You know, and this is a wild overgeneralization. I'm not, you know. I would say in general, like a Charlotte crowd or people here in Charlotte, they're very appreciative and like nice and respectable to musicians and stuff, which is really cool, you know, because you try to give that back to them.
That checks out from how I perceive those different neighborhoods, boroughs.
Oh yeah, yeah, it's definitely South End is a little more that way, and if you're kind of in Valentine or something, you're there will be people that enjoy it, but you're also like, you know, walking in the gate, you're like, I'm background noise. You know what I mean? Like that's what I am here. So, and that's not bad either. I'm just.
Well, I guess it's always good, no matter what you're doing, to like read the room or have
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely.
Because it helps you.
Yes. When I play solo shows, I don't come in with a set list or anything because I want to pick each song and adapt to the room. You know, like I'll look at the room, like I'll kind of guess age range and play stuff that's probably in that age range. You know what I mean? Things like that.
So do you know like so many songs? Like obviously that are not your own. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah. I do. I mean, I started playing out in like cover band when I was like 15. So it's, you know, and I'm 33 now, so I've been doing it long enough to know some of these things. The one thing that I used to not like, and this is back in the day when iPads and stuff were starting out, it used to be really annoying to me to like see a guy with a book and he would have all of his songs in a book and the chord charts and the sheets and all that stuff. And that used to always kind of annoy me a little bit. Granted, I was also young and it was like, nah, you got to know what you're doing so you could perform. You know, and I was like,
they were cheating.
It felt, I kind of felt like they were cheating. At the same time, too, this is a guy who's playing at a restaurant or something. Like, no one's coming up to him and being like, dude, the craft. Like, if he's doing good and he's got a chord sheet in front of him. So I used to never really care for that stuff. But now, I'd see somebody with an iPad or something, I'm like, oh, let's get away with it. But then I'm like, you know, there was a time I had a request, or someone came up with a request. I was like, I don't think I have it. I'm like, oh, you know, and then they were like, we're going to pay like $40, so we're wishing you this song. And I was like, let me look it on my phone real quick. And ever since then, I was like, I'm just going to have my phone up there too. Just if I need to look something up. But mainly it's just like a notes app that has just a bunch of songs that I know off the top of my head. I'll just kind of scroll through it just to kind of help me remember like what should I play next or whatever. But
interesting.
Yeah.
So were you a kid that was like top 40 radio, or like what music did you listen to growing up?
When I was really little, my brother is 10 years older than me. So he, you know, this would have been early to mid 90s when he would like get his first job or whatever and like take his money immediately to the mall and buy, you know, 10, 15 CDs that just came out. And so the first real music at a young age was like 90s grunge, alternative. Started getting into hip hop a little bit, but my dad was also kind of a Southern rock guy, Leonard Skinner kind of, you know, stuff like that. And Mom was listening to a lot of like top 40 country at the time, which would have been like Brooks and Dunn, Reba McEntire era and stuff. So all of that, when I was really young, was kind of where I started. And my brother, actually, the first thing I remember really like musical memory thing is like my brother just got Melancholy and the Infinite Sadness from Smashing Pumpkins. Mm-hmm. And the song Bullet with Butterfly Wings was a song like Despite All My Rage, I'm Still Just Around a Cage or whatever. And I don't remember if it was in his car or if it was in his room or whatever, but like he put the music on and I was just being a kid running around and he would like stop it and go like, listen to this. What does this mean?
Oh, wow.
What do these words mean? You know? And I mean,
How old do you think you were?
Oh God, I would have. I had to look it up because it would have been right when it came out, but I wouldn't have been older
10?
than 6.
Okay.
Something like that. I think it was around then.
Mm-hmm.
May have been a little later. I'm not sure. I need to look up when that album came out. But like, I remember like not getting it and having to critically think about this, that I didn't really care for it. But it's not like, despite all my rage, I'm still just a rat in a cage. It's not. That's a very easy line to understand. But as a kid, I was like, okay, and I had to explain it to him. Like, he was like, no, make sure to explain it to me without saying the same thing, which was a really cool thing. And that kind of, I think, triggered me in a way to start paying attention to lyrics and start
like planted a seed.
Yeah, and kind of focus on things a little bit more with music and the parts and listen to that sort of stuff. So that was kind of like 90s grunge and alternative, especially when I was like little was awesome. But that was my thing. Loved it. Like, loved Soundgarden, loved Nirvana, loved Alice in Chains, all that kind of stuff.
Wow, yeah, that's powerful. Well, just because even like now sometimes I still love old school stuff, even if it's like old school, I mean like 10 years ago, whatever.
Right.
Any decade. We've talked about how I'm obsessed with different decades, but I'll be singing a song and like not until recently be like, oh shit, like I've been singing this really provocative song or whatever since I was like a kid and had no idea. I mean, ignorance is bliss.
When you catch the lyrics of an older song, yeah.
Ignorance is bliss, but still kind of, so for you to have,
yeah,
someone break it down like that for you.
Well, it's like, this was a couple years ago, like Sledgehammer from Peter Gabriel or something came on. Mm-hmm. And I just remember being like, man, this song is awesome. I was like, we should try it in the band. And then it's like, I'm like trying to remember the lyrics and looking at the lyrics. I'm like, I didn't realize like how sexual this song is. Like every line is just a massive sexual innuendo. Yeah. And, it's like you said, you kind of just catch that and it's funny. And you start like going back and you're like, wow, it's provocative. And you think about it, like, I mean, rock and roll in itself was a euphemism for sex in blues songs. Mm-hmm. Like, we're going to go rocking and rolling, Mm-hmm. And so that's where it even came from. So to me, it's like, it's no matter how far deep down the rabbit hole you get, there's all these euphemisms, there's all these things, you know what I mean, where you're like, oh wow, this song's a little dirty,
Yeah, I'm just having flashbacks of like, I got Eminem's CD from Walmart, which means like a lot of the stuff was taken out.
Right.
But it was still, I mean, talk about, that's beyond provocative. That was like violent.
Oh, yeah.
But I was like in 5th grade, like listening and like enjoying it. But again, not until later. I knew that he didn't like his wife.
Really good. Yeah, I was about to say.
I knew he had mommy issues, but I didn't know that like how like deep rooted it was till later, even though I had the Walmart version of it, that it was like, whoa.
Well, that like the parental advisory thing was so bananas because it's like, what's being said. You know what the message is. We're so scared that a kid's going to hear fuck, but we're not going to pay attention to the music that your kid is listening to.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, it was such a like.
I think it was a joke from my study of it.
Oh yeah, it really was, and it was such a passive way to almost parent in a way, But I think it was more just kind of like a political get ratings things.
Yeah,
we're saving our children because these mean musicians are cursing.
Fun fact: I think it started with Prince's album and this song called "Nikki," and some
Darling Nikki, or
some politician had a kid and was listening to it.
Well, I think
the kid loved it, and they were like, "Are you kidding me?"
Right. I'm trying to think if it was Tipper Gore or something. Yeah, right. Tipper Gore. Yeah. And she did all that. That whole era is really fascinating because the coolest thing from all of that is, and I really wish I could remember some of what he said, but the best thing to do is like Google Frank Zappa gave a deposition to the Senate committee that was doing that, and then also they had him as a talking head on a couple of TV shows, whatever, and just seeing how brilliantly he just like destroys these people in a way of just like why their argument is invalid, and also kind of saying like, what is it about art that you need to regulate, and it was just, I don't know, it was just very interesting, really interesting to hear like Zappa talk about it. He was super cool. Like, he was just cool. As like a human. Yeah, he was out there.
As a human.
Yeah, but he was He's a cool guy. I would like to do a little more deep dive into Zappa. Like that's one of those things, like as a musician, I'm like, I want to do that, but I know I'm going to have to like study it, break it down, and like go through all the records. And I know some records he was even like, don't listen to this one, you know, like I would almost want to do a deep dive of him or watch a good documentary. But I've heard there's a couple good documentaries and stuff. Like I'd love to kind of get more into him, because all I really know is just how I knew that he was a brilliant guy and great, interesting player, and then like those depositions and that stuff. Like that's all I've ever really known of him. So I kind of want to get into him a little better.
Yeah, now I'm gonna go YouTube him talking his deposition later.
Yeah.
So yeah, obviously, if you guys can't tell, or you don't know Todd, he's obviously a musician. So at what point are you like, I want to do this forever?
Oh, it's like in my bedroom when I was like 13 or 14 or something. It never
But
really...
I'm saying, like, I always like ask people this, no matter what
Yeah.
their occupation is. Like, did like just like a moment hit you?
A little bit. Well, at first it wasn't. I guess it didn't really hit me. I was never thinking of it like a career or a thing. It was just what I absolutely loved to do. I was not really thinking of any future with it. And then once it started getting to the point of like in high school of, all right, well, you got to talk about where you're going to college. You need to go to the guidance counselor and do this, you know. And I remember like talking to a guidance counselor, and they said, well, what do you want to be? I'm like, well, I'm already doing it. You know, I'm playing out every weekend, and like, I want to be a musician, you know. And that was really, I guess, kind of it, you know. And then of course everyone around me and their brother was like, well, what's your backup plan, or what are you really gonna do?
Isn't that so annoying?
Oh, absolutely.
Do you find it like, because I mean, obviously, even people ask me at this age about podcasting. Does it come across as rude?
It's
like,
extremely rude. It's very rude, because you're essentially, you're either saying one or two things. You're either saying, one, you can't do it, or two, even if you could, it's a dumb idea. You know, and I don't think we should tell anybody that. I think it's completely obvious. Like, I don't think anyone wants to be a musician or a podcast or something and say that this is what they want to do. I think everyone completely understands, like, I might be broke, you know, or I might have to figure out how to do that. You know, like, I don't think anyone is ever thinking that this is like some solid career path kind of thing. But I think that it messed me up a little bit. Growing up that way and having kind of the world around me have that perception, not in a bad way. I'm not like blaming my parents or anything for this, because really, they, you know, or family, because anyone that was suggesting that was just looking out for me, and it was a fear coming from a place of love, you know. But like, the best thing that's happened to me is stop trying to do a plan B, or have a plan B or a backup plan. Like, this is like what I'm doing now is plan A, and it's been that way for the past couple of years, and it's like it's been great. It's like, now that I've said, well, this is how I have to do it, I don't like go into, well, when it gets tough, what do I fall into? It's like, now I gotta keep doing it. It's been better, you know, since I've kind of taken that pressure off of like, is it real or is it not, you know.
No, I feel you. I mean, obviously I can't relate because my family tells me I cannot sing. But like, I can relate in the fact of just kind of having a head fuck, I guess, of like what you're doing, especially with the people around you are kind of like, yeah, but
right.
You know.
Well, I think it's something else I figured out is like, it's okay to change what you want to do as you get older. That was something to me that was like never, like, because I already kind of knew what I wanted to do. And so it was kind of hard for me, like, conceptually to see like other people's journeys and then not quite sure where they want to go or land. And to me, it's like it's always been like simple, like what I want to do. So it's, for me, I guess, you know, now that I'm a little older, seeing other people take a chance or change a career path or do something else, you know, I just think, I wish I could have been much more accepting of that in other people, you know, because I didn't understand that at all. But yeah, I think whatever it is you're doing, like if you just say plan A, this is it, and just
do it.
Just do it.
Right. So you dropped Nirvana. You know, I'm a pop culture person. Was there a moment, we're the same age, do you remember his death or Kurt's death or anything like that? Or
I don't really remember it or kind of understanding the concept of kind of what was happening. Because, I mean, we would have been
So,
kind of young.
like
'cause I
first
think
grade.
like first grade, yeah. Like I don't think that I really got or understood it. I remember being in high school and talking with friends and people about it and doing like the deep dive into what was going on and kind of really, you know, like Courtney Love and all that kind of stuff. Like I still think I have a book somewhere that I borrowed from a friend in high school about like his death and all that kind of stuff. But I mean, yeah, I mean, it was more. I think I got into it more and the stuff around his death and even understanding it when I was a little older. But I had like a big Kurt poster that had lyrics from Thumb on it with his like, you know, death year and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
So
Any thoughts on conspiracy theories, or you just?
oh, I do not think it's a conspiracy at all. I mean I think Courtney Love was absolutely involved in some way, shape, or form. So here's.
But see, that's when people say that, that's an onion, because it's like.
And then you peel it back. Well, see, the way I realized the way I said it, I wouldn't be surprised. Granted, I haven't like, I need to do a little more of like, I can't remember all the facts off the top of my head, because I realize now that so much of it has just been in conversation where like some dude's like, yeah, well, you know, her fingerprints were all over the murder weapon, and you're like,
Right.
What? And you're like, I have no idea. I just heard that from a
fact
guy.
check,
Yeah. So, and of course, when you're in high school, you're not gonna fact check Jim. He was like, yeah, I heard it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so I think I would want to fact check that, but kind of stuff. But really, too, like, I mean, with his addiction problems and stuff like that, too, even in like an unrelated way, like it just seemed like it was a very toxic, sad, and bad relationship. So in whatever way, and he was a very depressive person with massive addiction issues. So it's like, just put that together in a blender. Like it's not going to work out well for anybody. So I feel for that whole situation. I don't know. All right, now that I'm a little older, I don't know if I used to like would blame Courtney Love for that. I'm like, oh yeah, she killed him and whatever.
But I mean, did you think that like she literally like physically killed him?
I think when I was a kid, because once again I remember, you know, the same thing of like, you know, friends going, oh yeah, no, there's some guy said like she was running out with a gun, you know what I mean? You know, just like dumb things like that. And now that like the more I think back about it, like even now just you asking me, I was like, yeah, wait, no, it's probably all that stuff's probably not true. But I don't know. I just
no judgment. I just am
right.
So curious as everyone's
Do you know?
perception.
So, well, I'm trying to remember. See, now I want to like Google it, but and be on YouTube for 13 hours, and like the next video will be a flat Earth video or something like that. But no, I think the circumstances around his death were very weird. At the same time, too, you know, they had just recorded the Unplugged thing, and you know, I mean, he was pretty bad then. Like, Kurt.
But he was. But like, yeah,
You know, what do you think? Is that me just?
How much time do you have today? Love Kurt again, kind of with the Frank Zappa. Like obviously I just loved him from what I say, just as a human.
Yes.
But I've read a couple books, and the Unplugged, like no one knew it, but he was really bad off. Really, you would have no idea. I think he killed himself.
Yeah.
I think he wanted to check out.
I think he was extremely depressed too. And
now, but was she like a stable person?
Right.
No.
Was she helpful in that situation?
I think she kind of like, I think it was a time too, and I feel like even too, I've studied like Belushi, which is totally another era of early 80s, where this was like early 90s, so it was becoming more accepting, but I still think they were still in this like weird funk of like, there is rehab, but like, what do you, like,
what do you do with it?
What do you do? Like, what is this?
The
like,
understanding of it was so different.
Yeah, I don't think that they knew how to. And I mean, and even now and currently, like, who does? I mean, not that I can speak from experience that I've had to like
well, I think
have an intervention
has their
with someone.
Different path with it versus like there's not you have this, then you need to do it this way. You know what I mean?
It's really, I think it was just really hard of like, we don't know what to do with them. I know they had an intervention, but I think with anything, whether it's like heroin or whatever, cocaine. That's what was Belushi. It's like, it's really hard when like they have their own finances.
Right.
And they're
Right.
And they're not stealing like some addicts trying to get what they want.
Right.
They have the funds. They can do whatever they want.
Well, they have the funds, and they also have the people that will come around and
do it.
Like the other thing too that kind of happens with musicians is like people want to get you fucked up, so then that way they can
be around you.
Be around you, but then also be like, oh man, it was cool. I fucking got Kurt some smack, man. It was awesome. You know, like that there's a guy out there who
saying that
is super excited about the fact that he gave Kurt some heroin one time. You know what I mean? Like that is kind of a thing in a culture, and it's a monster in itself. And if you're an addict and you have a guy begging to give you drugs, and also you got to think about just how fast they're moving and how quick they blew up, and which was awesome. It was good, and I just think that it's so much easier to see in hindsight, but at the time you're just on this train that's just barreling down the tracks, and you're probably never thinking that it's gonna end.
And I think too, when you're like, or just even what you said about how there's like, I don't know, what do you call them? Like, what do you call people that are like helping the celebrity and like doing whatever they can?
Oh, like an assistant kind of thing, or
yeah, but like in a negative sense of like, I'll give you sex, I'll get you a woman, I'll get you drugs, whatever you want, I'll get it for you. What do you call those people?
I don't know. There's really a name for that kind of thing. I mean,
but you know what I'm like.
Yeah, well, usually it's just like some friend or not good friend who's just hanging around,
right,
or something.
Well,
just kind of leaching off the
vibe. leeching vibes.
Leeching off the.
But
thing.
I go back to so my number one favorite artist, if I had to choose, is Elvis. So again, I studied his life and everything that happened to him, and it was kind of like the same thing, which is the blueprint for all those guys, even if they're an actor.
All those TCB, take care of business guys.
Yes, is if you don't get me what I want, I will fire you and find someone else.
Find someone else who will.
Who will.
Right.
So that's a head fuck in itself. But yeah. I love Kurt. Yeah, I mean, I think I just think you're right. I think like it was a tornado of shit, but I think he killed himself. Like he had tried a couple times before throughout his life, and
it's sad, and it is unfortunate with one of those things where you don't want to, like, even as a fan, so you that's why it's so easy to latch on to a conspiracy theory, because you're going, nope, it's still like there's still a denial. Like, I mean, that's why I think people gravitate to conspiracy things. You know what I mean?
Well, of course. And I mean, I do. I mean, I like to play around them with in my head. I don't know if I actually be like, this is what's up. This is my verdict.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
And I think had Courtney Love, she just didn't have a good reputation, so I think it's just easy.
It's easy, yeah. I will tell you this. I did have a guy once. I had to go. All right, so I had to get some video files from somebody who had done some video work for us. And was like, brought my hard drive, and I'm thinking this is gonna be a 3 minute, hey, how are you? Plug everything in, For some reason, everything was completely not formatted or wasn't off his cameras or something. So it was kind of like, hey, cool, thanks for your hard drive. It's gonna take probably an hour to transfer all of this stuff. So I'm like, okay, I've got the time, but so I'm just like sitting with this guy. Basically, goes like, cool, so I'm gonna plug all this up and do all this stuff, and it's all moving or anything, and he just like gets the world's biggest bong I've ever seen. He's like, just go, he's like, you want some? I'm like, I'm good, man. I was like, cool, I'm just waiting on the video files, and he just like starts playing some music, and he's like, that motherfucking Dave Grohl had something to do with Kurt's death, and I'm like, what? Like, it just started, and so now I'm just sitting with this guy, and I should have just let it go. I should have been like, yeah, man, but I just couldn't, because he just kept saying the most ridiculous things. And I'm just sitting here for an hour debating with this dude who is stoned out of his mind. And he's like, no, man, let me show you. And he's like pulling up on YouTube and stuff. And he's like, when Dave Grohl, he's like, because I know for sure Courtney Love did it. But when Dave Grohl gave her a hug at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame induction, that's when I knew he was in on it too.
That's like, so funny, because I know what clip you're talking about. But
well, it's also like, okay, first off, for that clip, which I now had fresh in my mind because the guy played it over and over, it looks like a guy it's been 20 years, and it's who it is, you know what I mean? And they're just going, cool, you know what, let's be here and celebrate. Let's celebrate this moment and who this was. giving her a hug is not the end of the world after, you know what I mean? Like, they're fun. Like, put the crap away. Who cares? That's what gets me about, like, rock and roll. So anyway, I just thought that was, like, Dave Grohl did, like, whatever, come on.
If anything, Dave
That's
Grohl, like,
stupid.
hated Courtney for years.
Well, there was a lot
I think until that hug, like, I think that was kind of like,
yeah.
we're going to put this to bed.
I think there was a lot of, like, legal troubles, I think, between them with certain stuff.
Probably.
Or, like, like, royalty kind of
I think this is another vibe that you're like, again, I had no idea I was going to go down this path today, but I feel like even before he took his life, like, I feel like, you know, like, that guy that you're friends with that has, or I mean, it could be, doesn't matter what gender, that possessive partner that, like, she was possessive of him.
Right.
And it was, like, kind of like a Yoko, maybe not to that extent of, like, hey, and I'm sure, like, you can relate, like, especially if you're trying to, like, make music, like, that's, like, a really, like, private time. Hey, like, we don't want her in here. Like, we're trying to do our shit, and, like, we've done our shit without her here, and, like, this is, she's altering the environment. So I think it was always something. For sure. And I think, you know,
that's an easy way to go in your mind as far as where that stuff is, you know, and also too, it's like, it's not fair to Courtney too.
Right.
So.
But, okay, I could talk about this all day. But, obviously, going off on being a musician, how do you know, like, the right people to work with or, like, invite in your life?
That's a really good question. I think how do I know is from feeling at it a lot. Just living for sure, but I do kind of feel like I have, like, almost little standards or rules, maybe, or more, maybe just boundaries, and understanding that a little bit more with, like, some of that stuff. So as far as, like, finding, like, the right musicians to work with, it really is kind of like almost like a vibe check with certain people, where it's like, if we can hang out, we can talk, and we can be friends, you know, as long as they're a capable musician. They don't even have to be the best musician, you know. It's you do better work with people that you enjoy. And that doesn't necessarily mean we have to be from the same background or have the same thoughts or political opinions even, you know. It's just more, is there mutual respect? Can we hang? And, you know, and personally, I really like working with people that are different than me. I think it makes the music better. I think it makes it more enjoyable what we're doing. I think it makes me better as a person too. You know, I think someone whose worldview is vastly different than mine, who is also a talented musician, and working with that person, I think that it makes you do stuff you couldn't do on your own, and makes it better. So that's kind of an important thing for me. But as far as, like, finding them and stuff, it's tough. It's weird. People just kind of come in and out of your life a little bit, you know.
Like a revolving door.
Yeah, for sure. Revolving door is when it totally works out with the revolvers, because that's the whole concept of the band, is that it can be an open door. And at first, I remember talking to a few people about it, you know, to join in, and, you know, there was a while there where a couple of the members were like, we don't really want to revolve anymore. We want this to be the band. And we kind of changed it and did that way, but it really showed, like, no, you don't understand. This isn't just me not wanting to play with the same people. This is also a way for you to still be a part of this and do whatever your life needs to be, you know. And that was something that was always tough for me when I was younger, is like, you'd start a band and then, like, one guy would go to college. You'd start a band and one guy would get married and have a kid, you know, and you'd go to, you know, and it's not like, you know, and I would get so personally upset about those things, because I'm like, we're now have to stop the band or change the direction.
I get that though.
But
I get that.
It's also just like that guy's life. Like, there's no reason why I should be mad at him for any reason of that, you know. You should take that time that we had and enjoy it.
So how did this, like, concept of, like, this band, you know, come to you? Of, like, it having the concept of, we're going to have different people in it.
Well, I started to kind of turn into, like, a hired gun kind of musician, where, like, I would play bass in a country band and we would go on the road kind of thing, or I'd be a singer in this band, and, you know, just kind of whatever was needed kind of player. And I noticed that there was a lot of bands that did that sort of stuff, and it would be called the Todd Johnson band or whatever, and it was always a different band. It was always different people, And so, I had done that sort of thing for a while, and around the same time, I was having like a massive vocal problem because I was basically singing, 7 nights a week and doing whatever I could to play a gig, and was just constantly losing my voice. And, and it was around at the exact same time that I moved here to Charlotte. So, basically my brother was like, if you need a place to crash while you figure out what you're doing, because I had to stop playing music, which basically meant I had to figure out what I was doing for a job. Because I just couldn't sing. And it was like, I had to make...
How long did that last?
Oh, it was probably maybe 4 months leading up to where I was quitting. I was starting to have vocal problems, and I would go to, ENT, ear, nose, throat doctor, whatever, and they would put a camera up your nose that goes around to look at your vocal cords. And it was just progressively getting worse, as it went on. And so that was probably like 4 months, and then it kind of got to a point where it was like...
No return?
Well, they were like, we're either going to... I basically had somebody tell me, pretty sure we're going to have to do surgery on these nodules. If we do, you're going to lose your vocal range when you heal. Or you can take a dramatic stop now, come back in a month, and if they're starting to heal, we'll keep that treatment going and keep it going that way. And it was that.
That's
it was
intense. So how long ago was that?
Oh, this would have been about 7-8 years ago. This was part of the kicker of me moving to Charlotte. Really,
Okay.
Was, my brother, knew somebody who worked in a call center kind of thing, and was like, I was like, I don't know what I'm gonna do. I finally got what I wanted, to be a full-time musician, and here I am overdoing it, overworking, losing my voice, and I had a doctor who fortunately was in a cover band as well, who told me this about like, these are the two options, kid. And he said, I think you should rest. He said, because you don't want to lose your voice singing Wagon Wheel in bars every night. Like, that's not the reason you need to lose your voice. And so that was a very...
So like lightning struck?
That was a very eye-opening moment for me. It was a very good, humbling, smart, good moment for me. So basically, sorry, this is long answers to your question of where the concept came from. So when I moved into my brother's house, I basically like had nothing but all my musical gear and a drum kit and some of my recording stuff, and he had like there's a little area in his basement, in my brother and sister-in-law's basement, and I just kind of set everything up and would just start recording stuff just to kind of make sure I had everything. I was trying not to sing that much. I was trying to still get my voice back, and started a little job or whatever, and as I slowly got my voice back, I would start writing whatever songs I could. And so it was just kind of like this blah of songs of like being in this room and playing all the instruments, and just like basically came out with an EP in like a week and just had it. And I was like, this is what I need to do. This is, if I'm going to lose my voice, if I'm going to use it, I want to do it with my songs. And that would, so I was excited, and I had a record, and then I was like, I played all the instruments on it. I can't play this live. I have zero band. And so I kind of started talking to all these really good hired gun players that I'd played with before. And I was always a little heartbroken in a way of like, there's these great, just like fantastic musicians who make a living playing covers. And that's awesome because they can make a living, do what they want to do. But like playing originals and playing original shows, and it's always such a gamble, like you might not make any money. So a lot of times these guys don't really get to show off, the guys and girls, don't really get to show off their stuff doing that. So the idea with the Revolvers was like, what if we got like these awesome cover band musicians, or cruise ship style musicians, or, musicians who hustle and work it for a living. And like, that's the concept of the band, and can have those people. And so it worked for me in a way because I could, and I wanted to call it the Revolvers because I wanted to spotlight them. I didn't want to just be Todd Johnson. I wanted it to be, I wanted to have a band name because I wanted them to be, spotlight. I want it to be, if you come to one of our shows, you know that this might not be the full-time keyboard player. So it kind of almost makes you appreciate that person's coming in and doing that, or whatever other musician, So.
Very cool.
Yeah.
So now, like, when you have, like, you feel like your voice is kind of hoarse or, like, your voice hurts, like, do you do, like, hot water with honey? Like, what's the remedy?
So, well, a lot of it is being really smart and rest.
And to rest meanings, like, not singing.
Not singing or not talking or actually getting sleep. Also, also at the time when I was doing all this, I was smoking like a chimney. I mean, I'm just getting very drunk. I was in my early 20s, and every night I work in a bar.
Right.
And I'm playing a show I don't like, and the alcohol's free.
Right.
Like,
what do you think's gonna happen?
Right. So, like, all I'm gonna do is drink and smoke. So those were massive contributors to it. So now it's more. And
I feel like you don't, like, I see you with a vape. I don't know how to vape, but I don't know what's it called. Sorry.
Yeah, the little vape pen or whatever. And that's probably my biggest problem and vice, is still nicotine and having a problem with that. But when I started playing out in, like, cover shows or whatever, we would get to bars super early to set up with this band I was in, and we would get everything done, and then we're, like, sitting in the bar, and I'm like 15. Everyone around me is smoking and drinking. Well, I can't drink, but I would start being like, let me bum a cigarette. So that was stupidest, worst habit I could pick up as a singer, But yeah, smoking cigarettes obviously was kind of the worst thing for me. So, vaping's not good either by any means.
I think it's better.
It's way better. The problem with it is, though, because there's not a smell or anything, like, and it doesn't hit like a cigarette or anything, like, once you get used to it, you can just have it all the time. And then, like, that's worse. So, like, if it's sitting down, I realize that. So I'm starting to, like, buy less nicotine percentage and I'm trying to do that. That's the one thing I need to knock off. But yeah, biggest thing for, like, vocal health is, like, I also had to learn how to sing and not just yell. Like, I had to learn how to use my diaphragm. And that was a really good thing from losing my voice too, was, like, I basically did, like, vocal therapy and took vocal lessons and understood how to properly sing and work on my range and how to properly warm up and cool down before shows.
Oh, wow, yeah. I feel like I heard Miley Cyrus mention something that, like, as artists, like, no one really breaks that down for you, I guess.
No one really comes up and says, this is what you need to do, because it's like, it's interesting, unless you probably had, like, a great choral instructor or something in school, like, you gotta think about, like, if you play sports, growing up, you've got a coach, that'll say this is what you need to do, and this is where we need to work out, and this is what you need to do better, It's sometimes with bands or being in music, like, there's not really, you got to get that from other people, and learn those life lessons, which is good. But then at the other hand too, you never know if that person's a good coach or not. So sometimes what you're getting might not be the best, Whereas, like, I would imagine, like, a high school coach would, whether they're the best coach or not, is still probably genuinely looking out for your best interest, whereas, like, when you're 15 and playing, like, it's probably not,
Right.
But there's a lot of things that I've had to kind of go back and I realized, like, I needed to relearn and refocus on, as far as, like, being a musician, because I just feel like it wasn't, like, I picked up the wrong habits from the wrong people,
Interesting.
Like, as far as, like, how to perform or just get drunk and smoke every night,
Well, how do you feel as an artist when someone comes up and says, please play this song? Or is that the point?
It depends on how they do it and what they want. I'm dead serious.
No, I know.
I'm sorry, I know.
I know.
It doesn't make me feel, if I'm in the environment for it, it probably makes a lot more sense. If I'm playing, like, an original show and someone comes up and does something like that, especially if it's, like, a cover song or something like then.
How do you react, though? Because I'm sure it has.
Yeah. Well, I've realized that that person is not everyone else in the room. So if I could say exactly to that person what I would imagine I would say if I was sitting in the room, that's how I handle it. So it'll kind of be like a way of like, what the hell are you doing? You know, or just being like, is that really what you want? Like, I will say what that person wants into a microphone and be like, are you sure that you want to hear Wagon Wheel right now? Mm-hmm. Is that what you want to do? Wagon Wheel is completely fine too.
People no shade. I roll my eyes at Wagon Wheel.
Yeah, right. Well, the reason I always say Wagon Wheel is because I had to overplay it at one point, you know. But like, for example, when someone yells like Freebird, you know, and it's like Freebird, I'm like, you really want to hear Freebird? Is that really what you want to do? And I'm like, no, it's a joke. I'm like, it's a joke? So you don't want to hear that song right now?
What if they're like, yeah, that's what I want to hear?
Then usually the joke I have with that, all right, I'll do it if you sing it. Yeah, we've had it happen twice in the band, you know. But at that point, it's like taking a moment and like kind of deflating the ego of the situation and still making it entertaining, you know, because like to have a guy come up on stage and sing free, like as kind of ridiculous as it is, we're still entertaining. We're putting on a good show, you know. Like yes, when it comes to like my albums or listening to something on Spotify or some of that with my music, I think I'm much more particular about the artistry and stuff. But live, it's a little more like, all right, whatever makes for a great show, you know. Like I'm not as stingy about changing things up or doing a request or kind of joking around or messing around with people, you know.
Interesting. Now, does it matter? Like, do you feel like you approach it differently as opposed to like if a male or female approaches you?
Oh, I probably do in a bad way.
Yeah,
I probably have. I mean, you know. I think it also. I think it not really as far as if a male or female does. I think it's just more as like
just their approach in general.
Their approach in general. Don't start talking to me while I'm like middle of a song. You know, like if you're in the middle of a song, don't come up and be like, "Hey, can you know?" I'm like, dude, that is super not cool. You know, but if somebody
you're fucking up my flow,
right? But if somebody comes up and says, guy or girl or anything, and says, and this happened a couple times this weekend, comes up and says like, hey, excuse me, do you know so-and-so song? You know, that right there is, I will work with you for whatever we can get. You know, if I don't know that song, if I know it, I probably will play it just because you were polite and nice about it, even if it's something I don't really like to play, you know. Mm-hmm. If I don't know it, I'll kind of go, oh, I'm sorry, I don't think I have that one. I don't think I could pull it off. You know, is there something else I could do for it? You know, or what about this? You know, do you like this song? You know, and just kind of go back and forth. I'll try to work with people kind of on their requests. So,
do you have anyone that's like obnoxiously like hitting on you while you're on stage? Like, is that uncomfortable?
That doesn't get uncomfortable. I know how to deal with that. Once again, like that turns into the show, right? So if somebody, in a way, if I'm playing at a place where somebody is like trying to mess with me a little bit or something, in that like if somebody's hitting on me like mid-show, but usually nobody's overly doing that. But if somebody is, it's usually probably like a very drunk girl with her friends, and so I just kind of take that and turn it on its head and kind of just like, oh, so what are you doing? Oh, okay, you know, and just be extremely loud and ridiculous about it to the point where now the room knows I'm joking about this, and then that kind of helps with that a little bit.
Interesting.
Does that make sense? Yeah.
Yeah, because I've interviewed a couple other artists, and yeah, it's just, I don't know, I just obviously since I've studied the medium of that, it's interesting to like how people, or I guess I was talking to these one guys on tour of like how people like kind of throw themselves at them, or even going back to like not even always like sexual, but just even what you were saying about the drugs, like I can get you some drugs, like I can,
right? And
you're just like, what do I do with this? Like I'm sure at some point it could be.
Well, for me, it's usually alcohol, right? Mm-hmm. For me, it's like, let me get you a shot.
And so, what do you say?
Well, I mean, usually I'm like, okay, but I also am but I will stop myself if need be, depending on where I'm at too. Like I've made much more conscious efforts to, while I'm drinking, this is what I'm drinking, or this is what I'm doing. Or if someone's saying like, let me get you a shot, I might just be like, actually, could I just get a beer? Or could you just give me water? You know, or something like that. That'd be great. One thing that has deterred shots though is now that I have a sign up that says my Instagram and Venmo handle is like at Todd A. Johnson or whatever, I've noticed the reason people try to buy alcohol sometimes is like they're like, I don't have any cash, I can't tip this guy, but I can go buy him alcohol.
Gotcha.
You know, and so now that I've had that up, usually I get my drinks for free in most places, so it's like, you know, I appreciate you buying me one, but it, you know. But yeah, it's a little weird. As far, I mean, I've been mainly doing a lot of like patio cover stuff for like the past year or two, just due to like the pandemic. So, and we're ramping up to start doing more full band stuff, which is I'm extremely excited about. But as far as like people, like there's not like people, I think, come up romanticize this idea that, you know, has been seen in movies of kind of like there are just scores of women throwing themselves at you, you know.
Just
That
not the case.
yeah, that's just not really, you know, that's not really what's happening too much at all. I mean, there will be people who will, you know, talk to you and want to be around you and hang out, you know, but that's not the case. And then the other thing is too is that I think is super important to understand as, especially for me or anyone like me as a straight white male musician, if a woman comes up to you at a show and is excited and liked what that doesn't mean she's hitting on you. She may also just be a fan.
She's just like trying to be like nice.
Right, and just trying to be nice and everything. You know, like you don't have to have sex with every woman who comes to a show and is trying to. And maybe she's not trying to have sex with you.
Right.
You know, so that's, you know, another perception thing of like the rock and roll lifestyle kind of thing. You know, it tends to be misogynistic for sure.
Mm-hmm,
so,
yeah.
You know, like that's, you know. So yeah, but I mean, women don't usually throw themselves. They'll either do something weird, or they'll just like politely be like, "So what are you doing later?" Like you can tell someone's flirting.
So when someone's like, "Oh, what are you doing later?" What do you say?
That would depend on if I'm like. It would very much depend on where I'm at, what I'm doing, anything like that.
Who's
like
with you?
who's with me? Yeah. If I'm in a relationship or not,
Right,
obviously. But I mean, yeah. There have been times where after shows I've gone home with people.
Yeah.
You know,
that's pretty normal. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and you know, it's also, it could be like or not, but then like at the same time too, has anyone ever gone to a bar and then gone home with somebody that night as well? It's kind of the same thing.
That didn't play anything. Yeah.
Right. It's it's kind of the same thing.
So, you're also a producer.
Mm-hmm.
So, this might be like, wait, what? But can you break down what a producer is or what a producer does?
So I think there's a lot of different roles of what you could say a music producer does. What I would say I do as a music producer is I will sit and work with an artist either on one song or multiple from beginning to finish, as far as sometimes either song creation, as far as like writing the song or taking a song that they already have. Usually what I like to do is get their own voice, see what they already have, and see if we can make that as good as possible, and then handle the recording and performance with them, whether they need to perform it, we get other performers, from top to bottom to where it's mixed and mastered and out the door. So it's a little bit of just being a guide to make sure to get the best performances out of, just to get the best song possible. So I wouldn't say I'm this style of producer that will sit down and like, here's the audio for you already. Here's what you do. Here's your box already. I'm trying to see what's unique as far as you as an artist and help bring that out, build you up and build your confidence too, to do the best work that you could do. So that's kind of what I do. I like to start from the very beginning all the way to the end of a song or an album.
Do you have like visions? Do you have like crazy dreams about that kind of stuff, or really anything?
Yeah, no, I do. A lot, I would say.
Okay, both,
for
like
sure.
Dreams and visions, or just dreams?
Yeah,
or?
and like related to like producing or just music in general,
just
or
anything.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I would. Yeah.
Can you give me an example?
Well, so there's a song on our last EP called "Hot Damn," and I just like I just remember waking up like hearing it in a dream kind of thing, you know, and it's, I'm really fascinated with like subconscious, you know, thought. And I think dreams are great ways to do that. And you hear that a lot with songwriters where like, oh, I just heard it in a dream or something, you know, and there's just a woman singing, like, God damn, if you see that man, tell him I said hi. And there was a piano and a shaker. And so I just groggily woke up that morning and did that, you know. And then from there, the song developed into Hot Damn and changed kind of the meaning for it to be from a female's perspective to a male's perspective. You know, so I could sing it and write it and stuff. But I mean, like, that's where, like, that song came from, just in a dream.
Very cool. Very cool.
Yeah, those are the best. Those are the best. I love it's like when people ask, like, how do you write songs? The best ones always just seem to just be there. You know, you're just kind of interpreting it.
I've had that happen once. Not with the music, but waking up and just like writing something down.
I think it's great. I think it's a great talent that you can kind of, if you kind of accept it, that, you know, this is kind of where your brain's going a little bit. You can go down that rabbit hole of creativity and come up with something very interesting.
And I think I asked you this off mic when we met for coffee, but I was like, do you see colors? And you're like, no.
I wish I did.
I don't know why.
No, I've heard people who, like, when they hear certain tones and that they see colors. Yeah. I think that's a super cool thing. I would like to experience that. I don't know if there's a way to do that, but I would like to experience that, and however it is that, like, people talk about seeing colors.
On that trippy note, I'm all about the unexplained. Have you ever seen a ghost? Have you ever, something that like really shook you, whether it was like positive or negative or cool or? Like
an unexplained phenomena kind of thing. I don't think I've ever seen a ghost.
Have you ever felt a presence or like knew something was going to happen and then it happened? Anything like that?
I feel like I've definitely had like deja vu, dream style deja vu of like, I feel like I dreamt this and then now it's happening. It's like just when you're in a moment you go, I feel like I've seen this moment before. But then, but it would always be like a random conversation in a random place that I had never been before. And then I feel like, oh wait, I'm in this place that it feels eerily familiar, having this exact conversation with this same 3 or 4 people, or doing this exact same car ride in this place I've never been before. I've had moments where I felt like that, but then again, I don't know if that's just mind association or.
Yeah, I don't know. No. I mean, I don't know. I just feel like in the last like couple weeks, I feel like I've had conversations with friends about like deja vu and what their interpretation is, and I feel like everyone, which is cool. I feel like everyone has a different connotation of what deja vu is.
Right.
But I think it's like my perception is like it's good when you experience that. However, you want to analyze it.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I've gotten much better about. I enjoy science and analyzing things and knowing the answers to things, but I think there's something very comfortable in the fact of knowing there might be something you can't quite understand at the moment, and accepting that and still going with it, you know, and seeing where that goes. I think it's a freeing kind of feeling, instead of being like, oh, why is this happening? I don't understand it, you know.
Interesting.
I know there's a weird answer to that, but I don't.
There's no wrong answers.
Yeah, I'm not. As far as like paranormal stuff or anything like that, maybe I would feel different if I experienced it, you know. But I don't put too much into that bag.
Yeah.
That's just never really happened.
Yeah, no,
for me.
I'm obsessed.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I mean it's like this is like ridiculous. But, okay, so obviously you have a podcast, Making Noise.
Yeah.
How was that born?
So I did a podcast maybe 10, 12 years ago called Indie Spins, like back in the day when you had to explain
what it was
and all that stuff. So, and it was mainly just focused on music and having musicians on, and it started to get to be a lot of work because I was also just getting out of school and producing and started playing a lot more shows. It was tough to put on, so I ended up stopping it. And but I still always kind of had the bug, and I love podcasts, and I love podcasting, and I wanted to do it more. And so I always knew I was going to do it again. And then the past year or so, I had just kind of mentioned it to a couple friends, and my saxophone player and really good friend of mine, Jay Connor, were talking about it a little bit, and I was talking to 2 or 3 other people, and then I realized, like, I'm like, well, how, like format. I didn't really know what I wanted to do. I didn't know if I wanted to be just music or if we just had people on. And I kind of had the idea of it would just be great to have anybody who is doing some sort of creative endeavor or doing some sort of thing that they're passionate about, and just have a great, easy conversation. And then Jay came into a recording studio one day when we were working on stuff and just started like blathering on about some story of something that happened at work that day. And it was just the most ridiculous, hilarious thing. I was like, oh, Jay should co-host it. And it was like that little click. It was like the second that I was like, oh, I could do this with Jay, we hit the ground running on it and started doing it. Because it made it like, I just didn't want it to be just me. Mm-hmm. I wanted to have the safety net, similar to how I've established with the revolvers. Like, I have the safety net of people with me that that are good. And it was like the second I was like, oh, Jay would be great at this. I was like, oh, all right. And then we just immediately started putting the podcast together because I brought it up to him. I was like, would you want to co-host it? He was like, yeah. And then it was.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it was like we hit the ground running on it. It was something we had talked about. I had been talking about for years. And then the second I just asked him, we just hit the ground running.
Very cool. Well, you guys, this is a crossover. So
crossover episode.
What? Go check out Making Noise. I'm gonna appear on it.
Yeah. So it was very awesome to have you on yesterday. Thank you so much.
It was so fun.
Yeah.
Well, I love at first I think I was like somewhat like, well, anytime someone like interviews me, it's kind of like, whoa, but because it's just I'm not prepared for that. But it was fun. Yeah, you guys like great questions. I had fun talking about pop culture with you guys.
Absolutely.
And so I'm gonna end on my pop culture notes.
Okay.
So, Brittany or Christina, which we kind of discussed in your episode.
I would say Brittany. Brittany all the way for me.
Just hands down everything.
I mean, I really like Christina. Mm-hmm. That like it is not like it's not one of those things I want them to fight it out in the ring or anything. But just Brittany, I've always just gravitated towards Brittany a little bit more. I mean. I don't know. I just like her a little better.
Agree.
But I still love Christina. But anyway.
Yeah.
But you know what I'm saying.
So, BSB, Backstreet Boys, NSYNC, 98 Degrees, or Boyz II Men?
Oh. He threw Boyz II Men in there. That made it harder. You know what? I would say, actually, I would go with NSYNC as the band. Favorite boy band song. Backstreet Boys.
I love that. Okay.
The one that was the music video. Oh, it's so stupid and dated now, and like they were in space and they're flying around or whatever. Yeah. It was like the first one off. It was like the first song off Millennium.
Yes.
Or whatever.
Yes.
Awesome story. So when that came out, my brother
Larger
was
Than Life.
Larger Than Life.
Yes.
Oh my God. Banger. Yeah. Banger. That and everybody is.
Loved
it's
it.
Such
Still
a banger.
Loved it. And like randomly, not that I go to a lot of games, but they randomly will play it at Panthers games.
Yeah.
Which is loves it.
I will throw it in random at shows. And what I do is it's like a test to see, when I talk about with me a little bit, like it's a test to see where everybody's at. So I'll just just in between the show, just randomly at some point, I'll just go, everybody, and just see how many people go, react. Yeah, just to see how many. And it'll be a way that I can go like, all right, we got 7 of you. Okay, we might do that later, and just like keep it going. Or if they go nuts, then we just keep going with it.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Obsessed with MTV, which goes into like the music video aspect. Is there one music video that like, I don't know, or like as a kid you were like, holy shit, or?
Oh, right. God,
just couldn't wait to see again.
Well, there was just so many. I mean, we'd get off the bus and run inside to watch TRL.
Yep.
So just seeing that. So like, I mean, God, I can't think of like one that like the Larger Than Life video I thought was awesome. And then, I learned very much about myself watching Britney Spears video. What was the one? It was her second. Oops, I Did It Again.
Mm-hmm, she's in space.
Where she's in space.
So you have a thing with space.
Apparently, I have a thing in space. I had no idea about this, but that video was like, oh, I like girls. It was like I was old enough to be like really understanding. I was like, oh, this is I enjoy her. God, I'm just trying to think. There's so many.
No, I know I'm putting you on the spot. But.
Yeah, I guess they're all space videos.
Well, speaking of space, thoughts on Richard going to space as we record? Just went to space and back.
Oh yeah, I mean, I think it's cool. I think it's great to see that style of exploration. I would be interested if in our lifetime it becomes something that is very common. You know, because it's one of those things where like, oh, it's crazy what he can do, and the prices are so cheap. And it's like, it's $250,000.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's not like I'm gonna be like, you know what, I want to fly to space. But I think it would be interesting to see what we can do with it safely and logically in our lifetime. You know,
I feel that.
I would be interested to see if like by the time I'm you know, a much older person, was it very easy for me to take a trip to space, you know, and see that? Because I feel like that'd be pretty.
Yeah,
that'd be a hell of a bucket list item.
I just wonder if you have to like sign your life away. You think?
Oh, probably. Well, I don't know. It's one of those things where it's like it's kind of like when you see a scary roller coaster as a kid and you go like, I want to ride that, but I want to watch you ride it first.
Right. See how it goes.
Yeah. So it's a little bit like that. It's a little like, all right, well let's have all these people keep doing it for a little while and see if see what happens. See if we can
True that.
do a little better with it.
Okay, last question. I don't know if you still have it on. The boot. Your boot?
So I have an ankle bracelet on right now. The boot was getting kind of annoying. Yeah.
So what's that like? What happened?
So Thursday I was playing at Elf Ridge or something, and it was just I kind of move around a lot when I'm just playing or just kind of, you know, and I don't remember the exact moment when, but I think I kind of rolled it a little bit and didn't really hurt. It was all fine. So I was like, all right, sweet, no problem. And loaded everything in the car and got home and sat down and like had these boots on. I took my boots off. And as soon as I did, I was like, I'm a little sore, you know, and it was kind of common through a show or something. And then it was just like after 20 minutes, I was like, my foot was like on fire. Like I couldn't quite stand on it. I was like, this is not cool. So then that, like by the time it was morning, I couldn't put weight on it. And so, which really sucked because then I had like 300 gigs. I'm like, how am I gonna, and they were all solo shows. So I'm like, how am I gonna like
do this,
unload the gear and set it all up? So it was an interesting weekend, but fortunately, fortunately had a lot of help with, you know, talking about like a friend group and everything. It was wonderful to kind of have because I had called some people and they're like, we have spare crutches. Do you want crutches?
Yeah.
And so I like immediately drove over there to get crutches the next morning. And so I was like, okay, now I've got crutches. What can I do? And put a little thing on Instagram. I was like, does anyone want to come help and make a couple bucks or something, you know? And had, a bunch of different people just offer to help and were super awesome. And had another friend who was like, hey, I've got a boot that I don't use. Would you like the boot? Which is great. So I don't have to, use the crutches as much. So it's, it was really cool just to kind of have everybody come out and help this weekend and help me load up. And, it was, I really appreciate, it was a really cool thing to see. So heartbreaking because I don't know exactly how I hurt my ankle. It was just an old man thing of
something happened.
Just something happened and you took your shoe off and now it hurts a lot. And you're like, I feel so helpless right now.
I know.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah. I feel like everyone's gone through that at some point of like something hurts and I don't know.
I don't know what it is.
Age.
Yeah. Well, that's, it's the problem of like, now that I'm getting older with some of these shows, you're like, man, like I really got, like I can still do all the stuff that I need to do, but wow, I do need to take care of my voice more. I do need to work out more and be more active and all of this stuff so that way I can show up for this moment.
Right.
And so I'm trying to be better about thinking of myself as an athlete doing something instead of just like, all right, we're going to show up, we're going to set up, we're going to do whatever, like, trying to be ready and prepared for the moment,
Well, I know I said last question, but one more to close out.
Sure.
You're 33. I'm 33. What's 33 been like? I've studied. It's a very interesting age.
33 it's been pretty good. It's been pretty good for me. I gotta say, like my 20s, probably could just take it or leave it. 30, like maybe 3 to 6 months after I turned 30, on like it's like everything's been pretty good. You know, like it's I feel like I can do everything that I wanted to do in my 20s, except I'm smart enough to now know how to do it.
Interesting. I kind of I connect to that.
Okay, does that make sense? Okay,
Mhm.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's what I think about. How do you feel about 33? How is it for you?
Yeah, it's been awesome, but I feel like from 30 to 33
Mhm.
is like been trippy. Like I'm in school, but I'm not. Like spiritually and just like trying to like
Right.
get shit in line. And yeah, like why did I not do this 10 years ago?
There is a lot of that.
But I wasn't ready. Like it's almost like I have been single for a long time. It's like I'm just not ready. So I feel like that was me with this interesting. I mean, I don't know.
Oh, I make way better, way smarter decisions, especially in that realm now.
Yeah.
Than I did, because I mean, I don't know what it was. My problem with my 20s is I wanted to get what I wanted in life immediately right now. So I would go into any sort of like bad relationship because I'm like, well, I know someday I want to be in a relationship. So this one, you know, and it would just be like, you know, horrible. And taking the time to go like, it's okay to be single.
Yeah.
Like it's completely fine. And that, like, having that understanding has made me completely better about being in a relationship. You know what I mean?
Interesting. Yeah, 20s was just, I mean, we had to go through it.
We had to go through it.
We had to happen, but it was just.
Yeah, and I don't think I'd change any up. I don't say that.
Well, this is how I think too. Like, I'm like, there has been moments of like things I wish I could change. And then I'm like, no, because it all
now that's why
rolled
you're here.
into the next thing, whatever the scenario is, you know?
Absolutely.
So, where can people find you on social media?
You can find me on Instagram at Todd, Todda Johnson. You can also, as far as like Spotify, iTunes, or Amazon, wherever you listen to music, you can look up Todd Johnson and the Revolvers to find anything with the band. And so I mainly post on Instagram, so that's the best place to find me or the podcast Making Noise with Todd Johnson, wherever you hear podcast. Wherever you're listening to this one.
Well, like I said, thank you so much for joining me.
Absolutely. This is a blast.
Yeah, it's been fun. Yeah, welcome to season 6, you guys.
Woo! Season 6 crossover episode.
Yes.
Crisscrossing.
Check me out on Making Noise.
It's awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Yay.
Woo!
Thank you, Katie Black. You're amazing. Thank you, love.
I love your energy.
Yes, great energy.